Joe, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Yourself?
I'm doing great. It's a wonderful Tuesday on the day of recording on this. It was a fine day on February 23rd, so it's a good day.
Yep. Sun's out, guns out.
Yep. It's the snow is melting. It'll be a good day. But we
Got
don't
a
live in.
rather, I got a rather large cup of coffee. We're ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I had my cup of coffee and it was delicious. At least we're not in Texas dealing with snow as well, because they don't know how to deal
Yeah,
with.
we actually have furnaces that work and power that's still on.
Yeah. And water disconnects for outside pipes. I found out Texas houses don't have water shutoffs to the outside.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem.
You couldn't get away with that up here in Michigan and Wisconsin.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, I heard stories of people that had their pipes freeze in their house, and they actually had the water running, and the water froze coming right out of the pipe, which I didn't even know could happen.
Not at least not up here, does it?
No, not at all.
All right. Well, let's get this rolling. My first question for you, Joe, is how did you get into shooting? What got you into shooting? Like some background stuff. Whatever you want to share is fine.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin on a farm, so I've basically been shooting guns my whole life. Um, a lot of, 22s and shotguns growing up, and it was never really anything structured. We would shoot in the backyard and hunt squirrels and go deer hunting and that kind of stuff. As I got older, I did a short stint in the military. And then after the military, I really didn't touch a gun again for probably 10 years, longer than that, for 12 years. But um, then I met my wife and we had a family, and I started thinking about that kind of stuff. And I had always been super interested in handguns. For whatever reason, they always interested me. So a few years ago, I bought my first handgun, did the whole concealed carry thing. Um, and I found I really enjoyed training with it. So I probably owned a gun for about a year before I saw guys on YouTube shooting USPSA. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's awesome. I want to do that. So that got me, it was a couple months of a process of buying all the gear and getting set up. I had no idea how to even register for a USPSA match or find one for that matter. Had a lot of friends on social media that kind of helped me along the way. Our buddy Tony Salas is one of those guys that really kind of helped me push me into the right direction. But once I started shooting USPSA, I've been hooked. It's been a passion. I don't want to say an addiction because it's a passion. I absolutely enjoy every aspect of it. The training, everything leading up to match day is really what I enjoy. And then shooting a match is obviously the cherry on top. But I enjoy the process. Shooting, I find shooting, especially shooting handguns, is unique in that you can get out of it what you put in. There's really, there's some people that are naturally talented at shooting. But with that being said, even if you're a terrible shooter, if you put in the time, you can become not only proficient, but you can really master the craft as long as you're willing to put in the work. And there's not a lot of things, well, sports, I guess I would say that are like that, where, if you don't have some kind of natural talent on the basketball court, you can practice, but there's only so high of a ceiling that you're going to get to. I think with shooting handguns, if you put in the work, you can really go as far as you want to. It takes a commitment financially and with your time. But that being said, I think anybody could pick up a handgun and put in the work and get, uber proficient with it, which I find unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy that part of it. I also enjoy the camaraderie. There's a lot of D-bags in this community, but there's also a lot of really, really cool people that, I can't imagine, not meeting these people along the way. And it's just awesome. It's an awesome community altogether. Like I said, it's got its own issues, but, that's a different conversation for another day.
Right, and I would agree. This sport is interesting enough that you can get what you put out of it. So if you go to match day and you didn't dry fire or you didn't go practice prior to the match, you probably aren't going to get the results you want. But there's the good thing that the people who do put in the work get the gains, and it's more than just the dry fire and the match prep. There's the whole other side. There's the mental game. There's the cognitive game. There's the physical aspect. And I know we'll talk on it because I'm interested in some prior training that you've taken. I'm interested in that kind of training as well, and we'll dive down into that here in a bit. But there's a lot that everyone can get out of this sport. I do like the community we get. I've met more people from the competition shooting community than I've have in my own personal life. I mean, they're friends that I might have talked to over the internet for days on end for months now that are part of my life that I share my personal life with outside of shooting just because they're that good of a person.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for all those people. And without them, I don't know. If I didn't shoot competitively or practice for USPSA or practical pistol shooting, I don't know what I'd be doing like with my free time. I would probably be a very bored and depressed person. And I'm lucky I have the passion and the drive as well to push myself to do better and do these tertiary things with competitive shooting. Like I run the YouTube channel. I've started this podcast. I run my IG, even though my IG is really terrible. It's just a bunch of dog pictures and some videos. I mean,
yeah.
Because I don't expect anyone to come to me for shooting advice at all. I mean, I'll be more than glad to give you what I think after I watch maybe a video you want me to critique, but I'm not a subject matter expert, nor do I find myself to be one.
Right. Yeah, that's the same thing with my Instagram page. Really, the whole point of my Instagram page from the beginning was to just to log my progress as a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I only started my Instagram page when I started shooting competition, and I really just used it as a social network. I'm older than I look, and I'm not a very tech savvy guy, so I don't really get into using the app to its full potential. But I do have some fun on there. Post a lot of boring dry fire videos that nobody wants to watch, but it is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of social media. Instagram's the only social media that I have. But that being said, it's also the only way that I keep in contact with some people that I would call friends. And I'll keep it going as long as I need to, because I really do enjoy popping on there and just interacting with some of my friends, asking questions of better shooters than me. That's something I really try to do. I try to surround myself with people that are better shooters than I. I find that's, the best path to enlightenment, for lack of a better term. This whole shooting thing, if you can kick your ego to the curb, you can really make some big gains in a short period of time. And there's a lot of great people floating around on Instagram that are more than willing to share their time and thoughts and effort with you.
Absolutely.
And it's just awesome.
It is awesome, and it's truly a remarkable thing that how the community will come together and give you the answer. I I pretty much do the same thing. I don't have a Facebook. I have the YouTube channel, but that's more of a like a one-ended out. I just put out, and it really doesn't bounce back for me. But yeah, IG is where I'll communicate with the people. And then if you're lucky enough to get my phone number, you have my phone number, and that's the best part about it. Is like you get at that point you get to determine who has your phone number. So when you decide to kick the can on the IG,
Right.
you're like, well, then I have these people's information. I do use my I have my wife, she has a Facebook, so I'll have her like, well, look up what this person's doing on Facebook, like, because a lot of the instructors will put stuff on Facebook and
Mm-hmm.
Instagram. They'll have like their personal page on Facebook, and then they'll have like their professional like work page, like Tim Heron Shooting. He'll have his own little
Mm-hmm.
page. And I wish kind of Instagram had the same kind of thing, where you have like the personal page, but then you're able to have like your business profile page. So
Right.
then, but they kind of mixed them together where you can turn your page into a business page essentially, but
Mm-hmm.
it still
It's
functions
still,
the same way.
yeah.
But that's another topic for another day. I'm not a big fan of social media either. I haven't had Facebook since 2014. Everybody,
Oh, good for you.
I kicked it to the curb because that was a bad addiction of sitting
Yeah.
on Facebook all day, and it's like I'm not doing anything. I'm scrolling through this and being bored anyway. So
Right.
I kicked it out, and then I've been good. Now the wife will say I'm way too much on Instagram, but I can easily put Instagram down. Or on Sundays when no one posts on Instagram, you just don't look at it because
Right.
by the
Right.
time you refresh it, it's like, oh, this is the same crap I already looked at. So put it away.
The funny thing is, I don't even really actually scroll through Instagram. I usually just check everybody's stories, at
Mhm.
least first few, and then boop, I'm done.
The story, it takes all day to get through all those stories.
Oh,
Sometimes.
you can't go through all of them. Just the first like 5 or 6.
Hmm.
With the friends I got, usually they got 15-minute stories going through
Yeah,
that I got to catch up on.
that is
Got to
true.
make
I do.
sure they're not talking crap.
Hmm. Or crap in a good way. All right, but speak now. Let's get off the Instagram and I want to know what training have you taken, but like besides getting your CCW, I don't know
Sure.
exactly what it is in Wisconsin, what you've got to do, but what private training have you taken since starting
Okay.
to?
Um. Well, I I've taken a couple classes locally. Um, with this was before I had even started shooting competition.
Hmm.
I had taken a few classes locally, just some 1-day classes, a basic pistol and like a tactics class where we did some stuff in a shoot house. Um, but what I found was that the instructors were garbage. Um, I went to I won't drop any company names or anything, but I went to a class one time um, where the instructor didn't even bring a pistol. So I was not very impressed with that at all. Um,
And this was like a tactical class, or
yeah,
tactical.
it was a tactical class by a former mill guy. Um, I mean, and it was fun just being out and shooting, but I was not very impressed by the quality or the level of instruction. I haven't taken too many other shooting classes. There are a few that I would like to hit.
Hmm.
I just haven't gotten or haven't been able to do that. I was supposed to go to a Brandon Wright class last year, and COVID kind of derailed that. A friend of mine, the class still happened. A friend of mine was still able to go. I unfortunately was unable to go, but I also um, I took last year. I took Brandon Powers' peak performance class,
Hmm.
um, which is it's a performance based class. Um, basically, it's made towards competitive shooting and training for competitive shooting. It's he really Brandon is he's president at Fireline Shooting and Training here in Wisconsin. It's a couple gun shops and ranges, but he's also got a background, a master's degree, I believe, in human performance and kinesiology. Um, and when he originally came out with this class, he had invited me. I kind of look at Brandon as a mentor. He's really helped me a lot through my progression. He's one of those guys that is always there to answer questions, and he's always there giving me feedback, positive or negative feedback. He's been a lot of help over the years. So he looks at training for competitive shooting like an athlete, like a
Mm-hmm.
human performance coach. And me, I've been an athlete my whole life, a pretty high level athlete, all the way into college. Um, I played soccer at a Division III college for a bit. Um, so the stuff he was saying just made sense to me. His peak performance is all about learning how to be a better, faster, stronger shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's a portion of training that a lot of people overlook. Um, I have a very unique thought process when it comes to training for this sport because it is a sport. I see a lot of people that just do work with the gun, which is important. But when you're talking about USPSA, it's only a fraction. I mean, it's a larger fraction of what you're doing. Um, but I see a lot of guys that have, a A class or M class level gun handling skills, but they're stuck in C class because they don't move through the stages well. So this class, essentially, it's giving you a baseline of stuff, a foundation, uh, have you for how to become more explosive, how to move more efficiently, how to uh, how to get stronger. It also dives into cognitive training, vision training, um, and I know there's some people that kind of think Brandon's gig is kind of a fluke. I've seen some memes floating around, um, basically poking fun at the fact that he's advocating for training without the gun. But the thing is, he's not telling you that, training with the gun is very important. But, if some of these lower class or lower level shooters um, would do some of this stuff, I think they would see immediate results. And I know this from experience because it happened with me. I've kind of bought into it, and I thought, what the heck? Let me let me get put a little bit of effort into what he's trying to teach, and I saw results in my match scores almost immediately. It wasn't that I was shooting any faster, uh, but I was moving better throughout the stage. I was being more efficient. I was being more explosive. Um, And when you're talking about the lower level shooters, that is a big portion of where people lack. Like I said, people spend so much effort, and they get tunnel vision on just doing the dry fire and the live fire and the cool guy drills and the filming for the gram and all that kind of stuff. But I think if guys would just focus a little more on being an athlete, on being athletic, they'll see their match scores go up almost immediately. At the end of the day, USPSA is a sport. And if you look at the way athletes in all sports, at the highest level, let's look at, professional football players or basketball players, for example, they train on the field, but they're also in the weight room. They're also doing plyometrics. They're doing movement training. They're doing stuff to be a better athlete. Um, and I think that, it's something that the guys at the highest level of the sport do. I mean, everybody knows JJ. Everybody kind of lauds over him, how he's so ripped and how fast he is. And, um, you know, that's because he's an athlete. I mean, really, almost all the guys at the top of the food chain are all athletes that shoot. Look at Max, look at Christian Seiler. I mean, even Ben Stager. Ben, if you look at him, he doesn't look like an athlete, but when you see him moving around on the stage, it's like, oh, okay, you know, it's a often overlooked portion of our training and the processes that we go through. And I think Brandon is onto something. There's a lot of people that talk about it. Like I said, like JJ, for example, talking about being efficient and moving efficiently and powerfully and explosively, but nobody really tells you how to do that. And
Mhm.
that's where Brandon kind of touches with this peak performance class. And it was very informational. Like I said, me being an athlete my whole life, it made sense. But I also learned a ton in the short 2 days that we had together. Um,
Mhm.
but it really did lay a foundation for work that I can put in on my own time to get me where I want to go as far as classification and shooting progression and stuff like that. I don't spend a ton of time on it, but 2 or 3 days a week, I'm working on plyometrics. I'm jumping. I'm running cone drills, doing stuff like that. And like I said, I noticed it almost immediately in my match scores. Not that I was all of a sudden shooting 98%, but you know, I had people immediately commenting on videos and at matches like, "Wow, you're getting fast." But like I said, I wasn't splitting any harder. I wasn't shooting any faster. I was just moving better. I was seeing faster. I was processing the information better and faster, which is something that we're all trying to do. Brandon just kind of explains how and what you can do to help you get to that point. Um, and I really bought into it. And I'm very much a student of what he's trying to teach and what he's trying to bring to the community, whether you believe in it or not.
Mhm.
Um, we're athletes. We're playing a sport. USPSA is a game, and to be good at the game, you have to play the game. If USPSA was just shooting, there'd be a lot of guys in the higher up classifications than what we have. But there's other aspects to it that a lot of people overlook, and I think it's important.
And it definitely is. I mean, that's a very interesting way. Brandon does have a very interesting way of getting the most out of shooting, and that is, the effectiveness of even just learning how your body moves and how you need to run and analyzing your running or analyzing your footsteps. I think if my employers looked at the surveillance camera at work, they would see that I'm a very weird person because I will run across the room and like watch where my feet are going and see like, oh, I need to start slowing down, so I'm making the smaller steps and coming into a position. It's really funny because if someone is actually like outside my work area, because it's just a bunch of fucking windows, so they can see me doing all this weird crap. And it's like everyone's like, "What, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine. Just ignore the window. Ignore me. I'm just doing my thing." Because I run back from a molding machine back to a like an office esque desk thing, So I'll run from there to there, and I'll be like, "What are you doing?" And then I don't explain it to them because they wouldn't understand it. But there's a whole lot of different things of learning how the body works and how the body moves, and I'm
Right.
gonna I'm gonna
Right.
work more on. I need to work on the vision, even though shooting a red dot really enhances your cognitive ability and the vision, be able to see you see the dot, so your eyes are getting used to seeing things move very quickly. But even gaining cognitive ability and vision skill would enhance that even more. So you can split, you
Sure.
potentially could split faster or call that shot a little faster to then commit to leaving the position if that was the last target, or transitioning faster. So you don't necessarily need transitions, doing a bunch of transition drills, which are still very fine and good to practice. But the like the ball, he does the thing with the balls and
Mm-hmm.
reading the eye chart.
Yep.
I hate eye charts because I even with glasses I still can't read them. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different skills, and you can do it all on your own.
Right.
Brandon and I actually talked last night about something. I made a post about. I was reposting an Anderson podcast that came out today or yesterday, and it's like I said, are you are you willing to do all the work? Because I think the title of it was, "Are you willing to do the last 5%?" And Steve was referring to the mental game, doing the performance journal. And I was made the comment of, "Are you willing to do the work your competitors are?" And then we had a conversation that truly most competitors aren't doing the rest of that they can do besides the shooting. And
Right.
there's more than the shooting, the mental game. There's a whole fitness and athleticism. I know I'm fairly active, but my diet is garbage. Like
Yeah, me too.
I can't control I control how much I eat, but I'm still like, I'm not gonna sit there and count my calories for the rest of my life to be the best I can be. I'll put on a little pudge and I'll lose it every once in a while, but
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I live on a Starburst and cheesecake, so
well, that's funny that you mentioned that. I think your buddy Kevin wants me to ask you about your yellow starbursts.
yeah. Uh, I'm eating Starburst. I'm not sure what he's trying to get at with the yellow ones in particular. Oh, I think yeah, I used to pick all the yellow Starbursts out of the bag
Hmm?
because I didn't like them. But then I grew up and became an adult, and now I eat the yellow ones too.
Oh, now you eat the yellow ones.
Yeah,
I was
now I eat
interesting
the
with
yellow ones too.
starbursts. I would separate them all by color before I started, and then I would then eat the. It was really weird because I do this with M&Ms still. I will eat the lowest amount first. So there's only 5 red ones. All the the red ones get eaten, and then like the oranges will get eaten if they had set. It's just how I do it. Or like for M&Ms, it's like, okay, I might do that, or just throw the whole little. Cause I'll get the little snack bags of them.
Hmm.
They give to like kids at Halloween. You just rip them open and they're all in there. Yep. Well, there's that. Let's see. Okay, what? I know this question, but the viewers probably don't know. What is your primary division, and what is the gear you choose to use, like your gun, your belt?
Okay. I shoot carry optics. I pretty much have since the beginning. I did shoot a couple matches in production when I first started, while I was waiting to get a gun milled. But um, I I shoot a Shadow 2 right now. I just picked this up in the fall. Um, I'm a big fan of it, but it was quite a learning curve when I first got it.
Well, it's a big
Um,
investment as well. I mean, that's not a cheap gun right there.
right. Right. But
Not compared to like my Wonder Blaster. For our audio listeners, he was holding his Shadow too, and now I'm holding my new Match 2021 gun. Before it gets murdered by a milling machine.
yeah, that's a conversation we can have a little bit later. As far as me switching platforms and whatever, I kind of did it on an emotional response. But I shoot Shadow 2 with an SRO. Nothing special. I'm pretty loyal to a few companies. I have zero sponsorships, but there's a couple companies that have been good to me. Over the years, I use a Long Shadow Huron, a holster. Those guys there are fantastic. Their products are phenomenal, but the people are uh, even better. So I always recommend the Long Shadow holsters because those guys over there are awesome. But other than that, I just got a Black Scorpion gear belt with some Black Scorpion gear mag pouches. Nothing fancy, nothing Gucci. Actually, for the first like year and a half, I shot USPSA. I had a OWB holster that was zip tied to my competition belt, and it worked wonders for me for almost 2 full years till I got into the
Now,
Shadow 2 world.
now, how'd you have it zip tied? Did it have like those like 1 inch, 1.5 inch belt loops or something?
It
And
did have it. It had uh, a little dingus that that
Mhm.
mounted to it that slid over my belt, but there was nothing to lock it in place. So I stuck a couple zip ties on there, and so she wouldn't move anywhere,
Well,
and I
what you,
rocked it.
you can always fix things with zip ties and duct tape. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's just the code of the law. That's why you always have zip ties and you always have duct tape. If you don't, go put them in your truck because you need to. Because
Yep. If not in your range bag, because you
hmm
never know when you need to zip tie a red dot to your slide.
yeah, that maybe for an open gun you could zip tie it down still. I don't know about a slide mounted optic, but yeah. Now I've never looked at any of this Black Scorpion gear products. I'm assuming the belt's like every other inner outer belt, and
Yeah. Um. Well, with me, I have uh, well, 3 kids and one on the way here in a couple weeks. So I got quite a large family. So I kind of had to buy all my gear uh, in pieces. It took me a while to uh, acquire everything I needed, probably like 3 months. And it was the same thing, with guns and, buying my SRO. I usually buy myself something every year for my birthday in March, which is
hmm
usually when I bought my SRO, for example, and
hmm
stuff like that. Um, and that's kind of been a part of my process, was the, um, you know, USPSA for me isn't like my first priority.
hmm
I love it, and I wish I could shoot 2 matches a weekend and run around with my buddies all the time and shoot, live fire practice 2 days a week and stuff like that. But it just wasn't an option for me. So I had to be very choosy with, when I shoot matches. Um, I probably only shot 15 or 16 matches in the 2 years that I've been doing this. Not My level of participation isn't nearly where I would like it to be, and it's definitely hindered my progress. Um, I think shooting matches is um, it's a hugely important part of the learning process. That's where we confirm a lot of the stuff that we're trying to learn in the dry, in dry practice and live practice and stuff like that. But I just didn't have the budget to be blowing, 20,000 rounds or 30,000 rounds of ammunition a year. With that being said, I spent a lot of time doing the things that I could do. I mean, one thing I have a lot of is time at home to dry practice, to study film. And I don't just film myself and then, post a cool video on Instagram. I try to film my entire session. When if I dry fire for 45 minutes, a lot of times I'll film the whole thing, which is why I don't post a lot of stuff on Instagram, because I don't want to edit down a 40-minute long video or take clips out of it. Um, but I like to watch all of it, uh, you know, in replay, sometimes several times, to really kind of nitpick some of the small things that I do. I have a sort of, like I said earlier, unique thought process when it comes to training, um, and even taking training classes for that matter. Um, I had a bad taste in my mouth after the couple local classes I've taken. So when I look into taking a class, there's really only a couple guys out there that I really want to go take classes from. Um, the way I see it, the best way to improve is to put the time in yourself, and but also to shoot with people that are better than you, to practice with people that are better than you. I get more out of a range session with a couple of my buddies than I would, spending $500 or $600 or $700 going to take a class from, X instructor. I mean, there's a couple people out there like Steve Anderson and Ben Stager, uh, uh, Scott Jidlinski. I would love to take a red dot class from him, but I don't really get into the tactical shooting thing. The way I look at it, if I can shoot fast and accurately, if I get into a tactical situation or a situation where I have to draw my gun and go to work, um, I'm more than capable of doing that. I don't think, spending money to go to a class to learn tactics is going to help me win a fight in the street. But
Mm-hmm.
being able to do a bill drill in 170 all alphas from 7 yards from concealment, that will help me win a gunfight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I don't put a lot of stock in taking training classes to progress. I talk to a lot of people. I ask a lot of questions. There's some really good guys out there like Brandon or Joel from Applied Performance or Rob Epifania, that you can talk to, that ask questions to. They'll help critique you. Um, and I get more out of my time, my constructive time behind my gun than I would spending a bunch of money to, blow a bunch of rounds at a class.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not saying that they're they're a waste of time. I just think that the best way to learn is to experience it yourself. You need to learn how you shoot a gun, or for, in my instance, what I need to do to shoot a gun, because every shooter is different. There's no cookie cutter method to, okay, this is how you do it, this is how you do this is how you do that, okay, now you're a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that, you go to a class, a lot of times you just learn what you need to do to practice. You're not really spending a lot of time with these instructors where they can really, break you down and teach you a whole bunch, especially if you're in a class with 10 or 15 or 20 other shooters. Again, don't get me wrong. If you know, if you want to go to a class with somebody, I don't hold that against you. But me personally, I learn more from spending that time behind my gun. There isn't an instructor out there that shoots the way that I do, that sees the way that I do. So as far as I see it, that's how I get better. That's what I do. I want to spend, I figure, or Steve Anderson says there's X amount of dry fire trigger pulls you need to make to get to GM. What that is, nobody really knows. Um, but if you got a couple friends that are GMs, or like legit GMs, not just paper GMs, but guys that actually train hard and practice hard, you'll get more out of a day on the range with your buddies, um, than I would at some of these big training classes. So I don't really do that. I want to put the time in because I need to figure out what works for me, and what doesn't work for me. So there's really, you could work with a trainer and he might be able to tell you one tip in a whole day that will affect the way you shoot and help you be better. But you're still taking what you learned in that training class back home to really get out of a training class what you're trying to get out of it. So I do think there's a place for them, but for me it's really not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a unique, like I said, it's a unique thought process. I don't there's not a ton of people that really share this thought process or this belief, but it's something I've kind of learned over the years. And the constructive time I put behind the gun is invaluable than to any, day on the range that I spent with an instructor.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of look at in training it the same way. I don't go to trainings or classes. Well, I vet my instructors very seriously and I look at what they've
Mm-hmm.
got. I don't, even if someone says that's a great class, they've had a great time, I'll still look into the instructor, figure out if they work for me, if like they're going to teach me something. I'll use their shooting pedigree as a thing, but I'll see how they interact with students on social media. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and being able to communicate and how they communicate. I don't need someone to use $10 words at me to think that I'm going to get out of it. Especially
Right.
when they don't know what those words really mean or how to then turn those big $10 words into 5-cent words to get me to do what they're trying to get
Right.
me to do. Then I don't go to notch my belt either. I won't go take a class for taking a class's sake. If I want to get better, I'm going to go seek out who I need to seek out to get better. If I want to go work solely on movement in a stage, I'm going to look up Kita Bussy or JJ for in-stage movement. But if I want to be a better mover or a better athlete, I'm going to go see Brandon. I'm going to find the experts on what they do and I'm not going to go to the best shooter all around in the world to teach me how to navigate this memory stage because they're not going to be able to articulate to me the best way to run through a certain stage or any stage. They're going to tell you how they do it, and how they do
Right.
it might not work for me. And
Right.
same for you. I probably shoot different than you do. My mental processes are probably different. I mean, we do have some very similar aspects and attributes, but I might see my skill set lean towards better for shooting on the move or posting up in a position where you're like, no, I'm going to roll through it and not care to stop, or pause instead of stop. And there's a lot of different things that everyone's different, like you said, where
Right.
there's not holding up a Ipsit Classic target, guys, but it's like not everyone looks like this.
Right.
Everyone, like, they could have a big chunk missing or what, or someone doesn't have an arm. There's a guy I follow on Instagram. He shoots for Glock in a wheelchair, mind you. He's on Team Glock, and his holster sits right next to his like where his hands move, and he runs around a stage in a wheelchair.
That's
So
awesome.
how he shoots is totally different than anybody else,
Right.
and he doesn't have to worry about fault lines because he's in a wheelchair. I mean, he still has to sit but they're not going to ding him for his wheel being out. As long as his
Yeah.
body is in the fault line, it's fine. But not
That's
everyone's
so
the
cool.
same. It
Yeah,
is
that's
cool.
so cool.
I'll have to send you his page because he's pretty cool. But and what was that? Not everyone's the same, and training is something you got to vet seriously. And don't waste your money, guys. Like, oh, there's the other thing I was thinking of. Shooting is shooting, and I don't know how many times I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. You can learn shooting from anybody. You don't need to go to a tactics class or a tactical class to be a better shooter.
Right.
If you're a tactical guy, go seek a competition guy because they are the guys who are proficient and efficient with running a gun. So don't get behind the mindset, oh, he's a gamer. He ain't gonna teach me anything. Well, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna go to the gamer, but I'm also go to the Timmy and learn something that I didn't know about breaching doors. Or I mean, I don't think I'll need to run CQB shoot house classes
No.
because I mean, it's probably one of those, well, my buddies are going, so let's go have a good time is more the thing. But there's something about you can learn so much from so many people and so many different
Right.
things that you don't have to stick into your wheelhouse. And soon, I feel if soon as the sides, the gamers and the Timmies can make that Venn diagram of the middle, like everyone's okay with, they can flow together and not be like, well, I'm not listening to you because you run around and race guns and you aren't concealed all the time, and but we play a game and that's
Right.
not part of the game. Well,
Right.
it can be part. Like Les Kiss Martoni just came in 10th at the Florida Open shooting limited minor from
Yeah, he's a
concealment.
he's a G.
Yeah.
Les is a G. He's awesome. I wish he still lived in Chicago so I could shoot with him around here. I had actually gotten invited to go and shoot the Florida Open, but it was too close to my wife's due date. I didn't want to risk being in Florida when my baby decided to come, so I had to sit it out.
Yeah, and that's a long fly, or well, that's not a long fly, but it's a long drive to get down to Florida.
Yeah,
You go sit in
well,
orange groves and McDonald's is because that's pretty
it's
much all there is in Frostproof, Florida. It is nothing.
well, that's where most gun ranges are, out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but they were even like Area 6 last year was like near the beach, like a half hour towards the beach, and it wasn't in mid central Florida. So it was kind
Oh,
of nice.
yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't
But the
really
bre-
follow that kind of stuff much.
but the best ranges are in the middle of nowhere, but at least some of them have some amenities other than McDonald's. But hey, I mean, it's that or you're driving an hour to dinner, everyone's told me, from like Nationals of 2020. I had some buddies staying right in Frostproof, and they had an awesome Airbnb right on an airport. No, it was an airport or a golf course, either one. Phenomenal. But the eating was not very good because, or you had to drive. But
Yeah.
that's here nor there. What else is there? So do you have any current goals at the moment for your shooting in competition or self defense, carry kind of stuff?
Um, my biggest goal is to up my level of participation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I need to shoot more matches. Um, Recently, I just had some changes in my business life, uh, changes for the better. So there was a couple week period of time where I didn't spend as much time with my gun as I would like to. Um, and the whole ammo crisis right now is kind of uh, kind of putting a damper on the planning for my season coming ahead, moving forward. I really wanted to hit 2021 hard. I'm still going to work on shooting as many matches as I can, but it's not going to be what I was hoping it was going to be. I need to up my level of participation to get where I want to be as far as my classifications. Um, I'm currently right now still in D class. I mean, I started. I basically started shooting USPSA like right when I started learning how to shoot a handgun. Basically, like I said, I had a gun for about a year, but I had maybe shot 700 rounds through it. I really didn't know what I was doing as far as that was concerned. So I had quite a few matches where, I mean, you can look back on my Instagram and see some of my early matches with me like walking stages, and I zeroed quite a few classifiers at the beginning. Um, and it doesn't bother me. I know
Mm-hmm.
some people might not go on a podcast and tell people that they're in D class, but it doesn't bother me. I'm not. That's not the level of shooter that I'm at. That's just the level of classification that I'm at right now because of, again, my level of participation and the fact that I just haven't been able to make a ton of matches.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, the last couple of years, I actually shot more matches in the off season in the winter, just because some of the indoor ranges that host matches near me are closer to my house than what it is during the outdoor season. I got a place about 35 minutes and another about an hour that host indoor matches and outdoor matches. I think the closest place is about an hour 45 minutes, so it's quite a bit different or a bit longer of a drive. Um, so that's my goal moving forward here, to keep hammering on the dry fire and the training and improving myself. But I need to shoot more matches. That's number one. Um, a lot of people say, well, my goal is to be a make master class or to make grandmaster. That's a really broad goal, and at the end of the rainbow, that's where I'm headed. But breaking it down into attainable goals. The biggest thing that's going to get me there is to keep doing what I'm doing off the range and in the dry fire dojo, and to shoot more matches.
And there's something to say, like, you can't replace match experience, unfortunately. Even doesn't matter how
No,
much dry fire anyone can do, you still have to go to a match, put your skills to the test, because it's different on match day than it is in the comforts of and confines of your own home and whatnot. Did your Apple Watch tell you to stand?
yeah, I think it told me to. Yeah, it told me to stand.
Mine did too. That's creepy. Thanks for watching us, internet. We love you, big tech. Anyway, but I mean, you really can't replace matches because
no.
you can't. I mean, a class fire match, they're nice. I plan on hitting one of those a year. We have one, luckily, that's an hour away in the beginning of the season, and then one that's 45 minutes away from me at the end of the season. So if I really felt like it, I can go to either of those
Oh,
and probably bump. I did go to one class fire match last year just to get a classification by the end of the year, just to not be unclassified at the end of the 2020 season.
I would
Just be
love to do that. I've never shot a class fire match before. I think that would be hugely beneficial. I would definitely bump me up, but um, again, it is what it is. It doesn't really
Mhm.
bother me that much.
Mhm. And yeah, and I would say my skill level is past my classification, but it's classification's just a number. But it does kind of say something. I mean, depends on when you classify as well. It's like a lot of
Right,
people go for the match bump class, major match bump classification route, which is totally fine. Some of us, it's not doable because of where we live or our budgetary restraints or our family
right.
lives. So the classification system lives for us, where we can shoot a classifier and it ranks us against all the shooters in the world, and that's how it works. But I mean, it says something about your skill level, but it doesn't say some things, because some people hero or zero them. They try to go
Right.
all or nothing, and then they alpha delta alpha Mike no shoot a classifier, and you end up with a zero it, or
Hmm.
you're three classes down from where you currently were or thought you were.
Yeah,
But
that's a big portion of USPSA that people overlook. I think is the fact that at the end of the day, it's a game, and you have to learn how to play the game. I know some. I personally know some guys that are really, really, really good shooters. Some really, really high level shooters that are stuck in B class, and it's not because they lack the skill to shoot. It's just that they haven't. Their level of participation in the sport hasn't been great. They haven't dove all in. They shoot USPSA because it's fun and they enjoy it and it helps them become a better shooter, but they haven't mastered the game yet. So until you do that, it's kind of hard to push up into some of them higher classifications. Because I mean, I know guys that shoot better than other masters and GMs that I've seen that just haven't quite mastered the game of USPSA yet,
mm-hmm.
and hence the reason they're in a classification that I personally think is lower than where they really are, where their skill level is at.
Mm-hmm. And I think that I know a few people who put the result of how they do at a match or the result of a classification defines them as a shooter. Where if they thought about it and didn't worry about getting that result or what the result actually was, shooting the classifier, you just shot it like a regular stage, you stage planned, you visualized
Mm-hmm.
it, just do what you got to do. Don't worry about your result, because if you let the result impact what you have to do, you will most likely have a not so great outcome. But if you focus on the process of, all right, I'm going to draw this gun. I'm going to do these targets. I'm going to reload. I'm going to do these targets, and I'm going to holster the gun safely and finish the stage. And if more people thought of the process of doing it,
Mm-hmm.
they would get better, fast, be more efficient, and get there faster and not dick around so far and be Bobby McBee class or Connie McC class.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, that's ego. People's
mm-hmm,
egos are are the biggest thing that holds them back.
mm-hmm,
Um, if people could just learn to check their ego and leave it at the door, humble themselves a little bit, I think they would find that they would progress much faster than what they're at
mm-hmm.
or how they're going about it. That's a tough thing to be critical of yourself with, but I mean, I think that's one of my biggest attributes as far as being able to progress along the way is that, I've never really had an ego. It doesn't bother me. I don't care if you think I'm a bad shooter. Uh, I'm not. Um, I'm not, a Ben Stagger or a world class level shooter um, yet. Yet. And I'm very confident that I can uh, get there, but you got to go through the process. There's no skipping steps in this process. Um, but if guys could check their egos a little bit, and you see it, it's very evident on social media because you never see guys posting videos of them making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it says a lot about a person or an instructor or a shooter when you see them posting mistakes they're making in their dry practice or live practice, because that's how we learn. We don't progress by getting it right all the time. We learn best when we screw things up and when we get it wrong, and everybody does it. It's one of those things. It's kind of like those people that got to turn the faucet on in the bathroom so they could go pee.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everybody does it. You don't need to worry
Mm-hmm.
about it. Everybody drops mags, everybody misses reloads. You don't need to edit those out of your videos.
Mm-hmm.
Even the best people in the world miss reloads. It's not a big deal. I throw magazines around my basement all the time, not on purpose, but it happens, and it is what it is.
And I recommend if you're going to throw mags across your basement floor, wear shoes because they hurt
Yes,
when they hit your feet. It
yes,
doesn't matter if it's an empty mag, it still
yes,
hurts.
yes,
And
yes.
I mean,
Aluminum base pads hurt on your toes.
mm-hmm. And they land for like smack dab right on them. It's never like a miss or like on the side. It doesn't matter. It still hurts though. Now, let's see. Let's go to this one. What matches or classes are you looking forward to going to? We'll say this year, even to 2023, because 2021's kind of still messed up
Right,
because the ammo.
right.
2022, hopefully we'll be back on our feet, and you know,
Um, well, this year there's a couple quote unquote major matches I would like to shoot. Shoot the Wisconsin sectional. I'm registered for the Michigan sectional. Um, Probably won't shoot a ton of matches this year. Um, we'll see how it goes. I I can't predict what the ammo situation is going to be in 6 months. Um, Obviously, it's probably not going to be great, but we'll see what happens. I'll shoot as many matches as I can get to. Um, I would. There's a couple classes I'd like to take, at least in the next, like you said, year or two. I'd love to take a Scott Zidlinski class. I really like how he studies the way the human body works in regards to shooting a red dot pistol. I would like to get some of that knowledge from him. Um, but outside of that, uh, I want to go to a nationals. I'd like to shoot it. I've never shot an area match. I'd like to shoot an area match, and I would also like to go to nationals. With nationals being so early in the year this year, I just kind of it was never really in the cards to make it happen. Um, So hopefully next year
Mhm.
is the year I would like to do whatever I got to do. To whether it's be shoot the shoot all the state matches and earn a slot to nationals or whatever I got to do. I would like to do that. Um, I want to shoot. I want to shoot with the best shooters in the world. That's my thing. I don't want to go. I don't go to matches and shoot with find all the lowest class guys and jump in a squad with them. I like to shoot with the guys that are better than me. Um, but going back to the topic at hand, there's not a ton of stuff that I really have in the books. I just want to shoot more matches. Probably not too many classes. Um, I might help teach a class or two, but I probably won't take any real classes in the next couple of years. If I sneak into a Jedi class locally, I'll do that. But most of my focus is going to be towards just practice and shoot matches.
Well, you definitely have an invite to come to me to Area 5 for 2022. We'll just hop in the awesome Gray Wolf camper I have, so we can
For
just party
sure.
all make it a little bit cheaper and affordable to go down to probably I think it'll be either in Kentucky or Ohio. So either way, it's a drive for both of us. So you're more than welcome to
Oh, for sure.
Carpoolio.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to do that. I'd like to experience, a multiple day match.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really enjoy watching some of them top level guys shoot too. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am to the point where I will shoot. I want to shoot in the super squad without being in the super squad. I want to
right,
find all the G's and M's or even A class shooters. Oh, I mean anybody really. But if I know
right,
there's some heat in that squad, that's where I
right,
want to squad with. I don't.
right,
But I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about the results. I'd love to watch them, but
right,
I'm gonna worry about me doing my thing, and I'm gonna burn it down.
right.
But it says to put the heat with you. If you put the heat with you, it kind of not motivates, but it puts your body, I think, or your mind in a state of you can do this. Just do it. I mean,
Right.
instead of
Well,
it might not you might not be on the top of your squad, but it probably will push you to be better than if you were the best out of all the unclassified or declassed revolver shooters.
I'll tell you something that I noticed through the years. Um, there are a couple GMs, not super local to me, but I do have a GM friend from Wisconsin that I've practiced with quite a few times. He's an awesome guy. But one thing I noticed shoot matches with some of these higher level shooters is that these GMs and M's aren't really shooting much faster than what I am. They're shooting more accurate than what I'm doing, a little bit faster than what I'm doing. But I was very surprised to see that. That's helped kind of shape some of the way I view training and practice and preparation um, because it caught me off guard.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a new shooter, the coveted, grand master, you think, like he's out there Flash Gordon around each stage and I've noticed that's really not the case. I mean, they're not really cruising around that much faster. They shoot sooner, they move more efficiently. Um, but having I see so many people that dry practice with their timers and they're going 100 miles an hour all the time. Uh, I don't really do that, not very often.
Mm-hmm. I
From what
barely pick
I've
up my timer as well. It might be near me, but I hardly will shoot a part time down or do that as well. I mean,
from my experience and from what I've seen, nobody's winning matches because they had a .6 draw or they you know they had a sub second reload. Yeah, it adds up when you get a couple of them, but that's not what's going to get you to win a match. or be successful. Maybe not win a match, but maybe win your division at a match, or to be successful at a match. Um, that's another thing that I kind of learned through the process. I'm more of a technique. Um, I believe I've heard Tim Aaron talk about this. He says he doesn't dry fire a ton with a timer, and I agree with that. I want to I want to get all the feedback from my red dot that I can. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I work more technique, proper grip all the time, because it's easy to let that slide when you're dry firing. It's really easy to have a shitty grip, or not be focusing on that. Um, so I focus on having that good grip all the time, being very precise with my red dot when I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing target transitions and stuff like that. I see a lot of guys that are really ripping their guns around when they're trying to go fast, and I find that to be kind of counterintuitive, because it, in my opinion, it takes more time when you come in so hot on a target that your dot's bouncing around, that your gun's not precise. Um, I find I do things faster and sooner when can when I'm precise with my dot. When I come in on target and my dot's where it needs to be, and I break the shots and I move on to the next. I find guys really, especially when they're trying to go fast, they build up a ton of tension in their shoulders and in their arms and their neck, and they really lose control of what they're doing, and it causes their match scores to be garbage. Maybe not garbage, but lower than what they could be, because they're being very unprecise with what they're doing with the muzzle of their gun. Uh, I found that works best. That this kind of method works best for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it may not be the same for everybody, but I don't find a lot of use in continually trying to push stuff faster and faster and faster. Like, yeah, I would love to be able to manipulate a gun as fast as JBO. But that being said, that's not what's gonna get me to the higher classifications right now.
Mm-hmm.
Once I get up into those higher classifications, it might make a difference. But currently, right now, the way it sits, that's not what's going to get me to A class, for example.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to get me to A class is doing things sooner, being more efficient, and moving through the stage efficiently and powerfully and explosively. I don't split a gun very hard. I don't have enough, total round shot through a handgun to really have my split times pushed way down in the teens, where a lot of guys, well, good shooters are at. So I try to make up for my lack of fast split times by um, with my movement. I try to use that as as a crutch for me, or kind of an advantage at a match, because I am athletic, and I move better than most of the guys I'm shooting against at a match. So if I can use that to give me a leg up, um, then for now, shooting sooner and shooting accurately, I might not be blazing things down, but for me to get where I want to go, I found that's the best recipe for me personally. That's my personal theory, I guess, as far as training is concerned. Again, I got kind of a goofy way of going about it. I kind of take bits and pieces from a lot of different people, like Steve Anderson, for example. I do run through Steve's drills when I dry fire almost daily, at least the first, what is it, 6 or 8. Um, but I don't really push myself with a timer all that much. I do occasionally when I'm trying to isolate certain things, when I'm trying to isolate different stages of my draw or different stages of my reload, to try and make it more efficient and trying to make it faster. But I don't do it a ton, and I'm not trying to push 100 miles an hour.
Hmm. There is I will agree. It's better to find the process, figure it out, micro drill it down, but it's also good. It's proficient to test your speed, see what the limit of human function is.
Right.
So if you can hit that point .7 reload or point .7 draw, it's awesome, and you should
Right.
be. But and that's the limit of your human function, and that's as efficient and as speedy as you can get it. That's fine. It doesn't you don't have to push it any farther. But if you can get to a point .7 draw every time because you're efficient and that's what your process deems to do it, and you familiarize that speed, it's a good thing. But
Right.
you don't need to I don't need to hear the beep 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 every
Yeah.
half hour, 45 minutes of dry fire. I can't stand to listen to it half the time.
I
And I,
don't. I don't need to. You also don't need to do it every time that
mm-hmm,
you dry fire. Every time that you practice. Again, I'm not trying to jump from D class to GM.
mm-hmm,
I'm trying to get to A class for starters. That's where I want to get to, and then we'll reevaluate uh, my training methods and processes if I feel I need to change something. Um, but you know that also goes to back to when I switched my gun to the Shadow 2. I actually your podcast with Reds the other I listened to it actually at work last night, and he was talking about buy a gun and stick with it. Um, that absolutely that absolutely everything he says is absolutely true. I really kind of took a step backwards when I switched platforms. I went from a gun that I had only known. I had been shooting basically a P10C from the jump from the beginning, and I was very familiar with that gun, and I was very the word I'm looking for uh, efficient with it. I spent countless hours dry firing it, and then I went from that to the complete opposite to a heavy steel frame double action single action gun that I had to kind of relearn some things all over again.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not upset that I I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a point in time where I was kind of kicking myself like, why did I do this? Um, but I'm glad to be past that now. And
Mm-hmm.
I am comfortable moving forward with the Shadow 2. I really just wanted to get something that I knew was going to work, you know, every time. These are proven platforms. Um, a ton of really good shooters shoot these guns, and I know it's going to treat me well moving into the future. But that being said, if I could do it all over again, I probably would have just fixed the parts that I had problems with on my P10 and then kept working with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you find a platform and you put 2 years of time and effort into that platform, buying a different gun is not going to make you better or make you faster. Your familiarity with that platform is going to dwarf the benefits of any, new blaster or fancy fangle dangle dingus that you buy. So, piggybacking off of what Brian said, I think that's very important. If you want to shoot a Shadow 2, come to a match with me. I'll let you shoot mine.
You
But
might be able
don't
to
throw.
buy it.
Oh, I don't know about that. But don't throw. Don't throw away all the time and effort that you put in with one platform just because you think the grass is greener on the other side. And you hear all experienced shooters kind of reverberate the same sentiment because everybody's been through it. If you got a Glock and you shoot a Glock and that's what you practice with, and that then keep shooting a Glock by all means. Buying a Sig or a Shadow 2 or uh, a Beretta isn't going to really change. But if you go to a completely different platform like this, like the jump from the striker gun to the Shadow 2, Um, it was a learning process,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
could have been avoided altogether. Again, now that I'm at the backside of it, I'm not too upset about the Shadow 2 purchase, but I wish I'd have just listened to all the guys before that said, "Hey, just shoot what you got. You don't need to, you don't need to go buy a big fancy gun to be successful in the shooting sport. You need to know the gun that you're shooting inside and out, and you got to be efficient with it."
right.
You know,
Yeah, and I'm not a gear chaser. I don't care to chase the next thing on my gun or the newest feigned angled mag pouch that's going to give me a tenth faster. I'm like, I bought what I bought because one, I like it and I have emotional like connection to that product because it's like I like it. I bought it.
right,
You chose to buy that for a reason. Maybe it was price or your favorite shooter was repping it, and that's fine. But you have it and you stick with it. Don't change because my favorite shooter whiz bang JJ switched from Gugaribus to some new mag pouch or something. I'm not gonna switch my mag pouches because he did.
right,
It's not worth it to me. And I like my Glocks. I just bought a second one. I bought my match gun. I mean, it's gonna have a different optic than my carry gun, but that's because I'm gonna put an SRO on it, not
right.
have a tiny dot. So, well, the window size is irrelevant on RMR, but if I'm gonna compete with it, I'm gonna at least put a competition optic on it, and I'm gonna keep
What?
it stock. I don't care to Gucci it out. I had an aftermarket trigger in my carry gun. I broke it. Less than
Yep.
1,000 rounds and it broke. So I went back
Yeah.
to the stock trigger, and it's a wonderful stock trigger. It's 2,000 rounds on it of yummy, delicious smoothness. And people will say that Glock triggers break in. They do. So the springs get a little looser, and they just get a better trigger pull,
Yep.
and they feel a little bit better after you actually shoot them. So they
Yeah.
might be terrible out of the box. Shoot them for 2,000 rounds or even 1,000 rounds. As soon as you get some gun rounds through it and everything slickens up a little bit, they have very nice triggers for what they are. I mean,
I don't think they're that terrible out of the box either. I know
I
a
will.
guy that is a GM and he shoots nothing but basically bone stock Glocks. And I got another friend, Excel Training Solutions, Justin. He's
Mhm.
another one of them guys that he shot USPSA for a year and a half with plastic stock Glock sights,
Oh,
and he
really?
crushed it. And he crushed it. I mean, he's got a red dot on his gun now, but um, he was always like, "Oh yeah, these cheap, shitty Glock sights don't work, huh?" And then he would just smash with it. He would just crush with it.
Mhm.
And he's like, "See, you don't need to have all this fancy stuff. He's got a bone stock Glock 17, and he kicked my ass a few times with it."
Mhm. And there's saying a thing about sticking to a platform and running it, and it's
Right,
quite phenomenal. And I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody don't go buy a Shadow 2, don't go buy a Walther PDP. If that's what you get the hot and fuzzies for that gun, you go buy it and you go run it. I don't
right,
care. We'll find a division for you to play in. Doesn't matter. If you want to go buy a Lago Alien because you got money to blow, go right ahead. I don't care.
right,
But
right,
don't be like the flavor of the month and be like, I mean, you can go buy all those guns. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the companies are going to love you, but don't bitch at the community saying, well, I can't get good because I keep switching because of whatever. If you keep swapping between a single action only to a DASA to a striker to whatever, it's not going to help you at all. I
right,
mean, your progression will slow down because you aren't getting familiar with the platform. But pick a
right,
platform. I thought
right.
I wanted to go with Sig. I wasn't going to go with the Legion. I was going to go with the X Full.
Mm-hmm.
And because that thing looked cool. But then I was like, nah, I'll just stick with Glocks. So that's why I stuck with Glocks. Right now they're a little pricey, but still, I mean, everyone knows what a Glock is. I can go to any gun shop and get a Glock part.
Right, right,
If a gun breaks, I can have a baggie that's only maybe 100. I want to say you could have a whole backup parts kit for a Glock for less than $100.
right. Some people got to learn that lesson the hard way, like me. Um, if I could go back, I probably would have just kept the P10C.
Bought
Um,
another one though.
yeah, maybe a P10F, but yeah, I mean, I was very familiar with that platform, and and then switching to something else. Yeah, and these Shadow 2s are quite tricky to learn how to reload fast. They got very, very, very tiny mag wells on them.
Hmm.
Actually, I threw a caliper on my magazine once and was shocked to find that my single stack factory OEM Glock 43X magazine is 1,000th of an inch. No, 100th of an inch uh, skinnier than my Shadow 2 double stack mag. So it's literally like a single stack deal. You
Hmm.
know, I was very surprised to find out, really how skinny. I mean, it made sense because I really struggled to reload this thing fast when I first started. I really had to learn how to, work with this particular platform. And there are some people out there that told me they're hard to reload, dude. Just be aware of that before you buy it.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
was like, whoa.
it's not like a big magweld gun or even a Gen 5 Glock where it's kind of gaping, which is
And
kind of nice.
the steel is unforgiving. If you
Hmm.
catch a lip of your magazine on the corner of the steel, it's not going to go in. Whereas
Yeah.
with the polymer gun, as long as you get it close, it'll kind of work its way in there. With the steel gun, it's very unforgiving.
Hmm.
Uh, but that being said, it's not something that you can't overcome with practice and dry fire and that kind of stuff.
Hmm. That is true. We're all right. I've got one more question, then we'll end. We're gonna wrap the show up. We got two more questions essentially. This one is from Brian Red's Dot. He asks, what is a major revelation you have had about shooting in the last year?"
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I think in my shooting progress, in total, I think I had two real like light bulb, holy shit moments that just kind of made things click. One was probably a little longer than a year ago, but it was when I learned how to properly grip the gun. Um, when I learned uh, how to leverage the gun and not. I mean, I used to think that, all I got to do is take the support hand and squeeze as hard as I can. Um, and as I learned through the years or through the months or whatever you want to say, I came to learn and came to find out that that is not the case at all. Um, Once I learned, the whole upside down horseshoe thing and to roll into the gun and
Hmm.
I found that, well, geez, I'm not really even squeezing on this gun that hard at all. And it's not going anywhere. That was probably my first major revelation. And the next thing that really kind of helped push me to where I'm at now was really learning to read my red dot,
Hmm.
learning to read the feedback that the gun's giving me. And that's something you can only do through a ton of practice. And you don't need to do a ton of live fire because I haven't uh, to learn the skill. I mean, there is time that you need to spend with live ammunition in the gun to learn how it reacts when you're shooting. But learning to read that red dot was was huge. Um, Instantaneous shot calling, um, just reading, even when you're dry firing, reading the feedback the gun's giving you from what you're doing, what you're seeing that red dot do. And once you learn what's going on with that dot, it frees up uh, your ability to solve problems. Uh, for I guess if that makes sense, because you know what's going on. You know what the gun's telling you. That's how shooters talk to their guns. It's through their sights or through their red dot. Um, so once you learn how to do that, you can really progress as a shooter because you can not only see what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right, you can see why certain things happen. Um, you know, especially like in USPSA, there's a lot of leaning and a lot of leaning around, you know, barriers and shooting through ports and learning, you know, what you need to do to have your red dot be where you need it and what it's telling you and recoil, what you're seeing when you're transitioning. How precise are you? Is that dot landing exactly where you're looking every time? Um, that was probably the biggest thing, was just learning to see what I needed to see, and learning how to talk to my gun through the feedback it's giving me through my red dot.
Hmm. Absolutely. And those two, I think if even if anyone looks at it, isolating it down, learn to shoot the red dot, learn to watch it, and learn how you need to grip your gun, because you can grip a polymer gun differently than a steel gun, than an
Right.
aluminum gun versus anything out there. I mean, everyone's grip is different, and what you need to do to control recoil is different. There's no true answer for any of these
No,
things.
it's very personal, you know, and that again goes back to kind of uh, my criticism of firearms training is there's a lot of, you know, regurgitated stuff that guys just kind of, they have cookie cutter um, ways of teaching things, and again, like you just said, everybody's different, everybody grips a gun different, everybody's hands are different size, everybody's strength level are different, um, but you can't learn to shoot fast and accurate until you learn to grip the gun, and you'll never be able to get true feedback out of your sights unless you're gripping the gun properly. So I
Hmm.
guess the two things kind of, you know, overlap a bit, uh, but you know, learning how to grip the gun is number one, and then being able to see the feedback the gun's getting you. Um, Trigger control is something I'm still learning. I'm getting better with it. Um, I wouldn't say that I am fantastic with my trigger control yet,
Hmm.
but once I learned what I was seeing and the feedback it was giving me, it also helped me to learn the 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 feedback pulling on the trigger and your trigger control, also how that also plays into what you're seeing and what you're reading, you know, and once you get to a certain point, you can tell when you're yanking on the trigger, or when you're coming off the trigger too much, or when you're slapping it, you know, and it's okay to slap the trigger sometimes, you know, it's when you're shooting a close-up target, slapping the trigger is not a big deal, but it's all kind of, it all plays into, you know, the act of shooting the gun. But you know, when you can talk to it, when you can get feedback from the gun, um, that's really how you know, master the platform, or you know, the tool that you're using.
Absolutely. And it's just one of those things. It's like you got to learn things. You got to spend the time and do it, and learn to acclimate yourself to it and
Right.
truly figure it out. And it's just one of those things. Get out there and do it. And it's okay to check your ego. You got to check your ego at the door to get better, essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Check your ego and surround yourself with good shooters. Um, you know, if I would have to put my finger on one specific decision that I made that's affected my shooting progress the most, uh, I would have to say when I met Justin Anderson and we started training together, we were probably very close to the same skill level at that time. He has since put a lot more time in shooting and training and doing that stuff. He doesn't have kids, and he doesn't have a ton of other things financially that he has to worry about. But he's helped me tremendous. Get yourself a good buddy that
Hmm.
shoots, that you can, you know, that'll be critical of you, that wants to see you succeed, that wants to help you become better, um, and and shoot with them. Go out and shoot. You know, I'll take a 4 hour range day with Eric Camp and Justin Anderson over shooting a local match any day, because I'm gonna learn way more doing that than I might just from going and shooting 5 or 6 stages at a match.
Hmm. And knowing them, they'd probably set up mini stages and things to
Yep.
test. And it's
Yep.
almost like a match, but there's still the pressure of performing, but it's more focused and it's quite nice.
Learning how to practice like a GM uh,
Hmm.
was eye-opening to me. When I first started shooting with Eric, he's kind of a local stud here from Wisconsin, and he's very focused when he practices. He figures out what skill or what he wants to work, and he works that. He sets up mini stages. He might set up a classifier, shoot it a bunch of different ways. Um, and that was eye opening to me to see um, the direction that he has, the focus that he has. Because my problem was I'd get out on the range and it's like, oh, what are we gonna do? Well, I don't know. Let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And when Eric comes to the range, he's got he's like, what do you want to work on today? Well, let's work on movement. Okay. And that's all we focus on then is movement or recoil control or efficiency. And it was really, really cool learning and shooting with those guys. And I thought it was really cool how, a grandmaster who is very well liked in the community, especially in this area. He kind of took me. There was never an issue. He never gave me a hard time for asking questions. He loved coming out and shooting with us at Justin's range. Justin's a great guy. He's helped me a ton as well. I can't tell you. All the conversations we've had on Instagram Messenger, or texting back and forth, or talking about this, or shooting matches, and being critical. So, surround yourself with good shooters and good people, and it'll make your journey and your progress much more enjoyable and potentially much faster, than having ego in the way and worrying about, I don't want to shoot with guys that are better than me because I don't want to be embarrassed. Check that at the door. Find the best shooter you can and stay in his shadow.
Absolutely. And I think that's where we're going to wrap this one, guys. And I thank you, Joe, for coming on. People, just check your ego at the door and you'll get better. I promise. It's one of those things. Just do it.
Absolutely.
If you got any questions for me, guys, you can send them on IG, YouTube, wherever I'm found. I'll answer them. Put them in the comments. Leave me a review on Apple, guys. I'm trying to get this up a little faster. And to you guys, they're still about once every other week, just because of I don't want to flood your feeds, and I want to make these last a little bit longer, so make you yearn for my entertainment. So there's that. Yeah, you guys, you can find me at Manny Things on YouTube, or to find the podcast Manny Talks Shooting on all podcast apps: Apple, Google, Spotify, Anchor, Break-In. I don't know. Anyway, find me wherever, guys. Reach out to me if you got any questions. If you want to see anyone on the show, message me. Let me know. I will reach out to them. I've got some guys who are pretty big shooters that I'm going to actually try to get on the show as well. Even though my outreach is very small, I still love talking to everybody. So
yeah,
until next time, guys, get out there, do the things, be safe. We'll see you on the next one. But check that ego at the door and you'll get better.